Good weekend to you and welcome to Leading Edge. I'm Jerry Anderson, and this week I'm going to do something a little bit different. It gives me a great honor to introduce my first guest today. Over the course of 4 decades of broadcasting, I got to interview a lot of people and presidents and governors and all of these prominent people. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a Medal of Honor winner from this thing from my generation that was called the Vietnam War. And he is Jim Mccloughan from up in South Haven, Michigan. We were hoping, Jim, to get to meet you face to face, press the flesh in August when we get together with the wonderful people from the D.O.V.E Fund right here in town. That's Development of Vietnamese Endeavors. And of course, something came along about a virus, which is not allowing us to have the dinner, but we want to have you on the show. And we're going to post this to their website as well, because what they do is extraordinary. I mean, they build clinics and water systems in schools over there in Vietnam, going back every year. And so the need is still there. We still need to raise funds, and we hope with everybody's help at the website, we're going to get that done. First of all, sir, congratulations to you, and thank you so much for your service.
You're welcome.
When I hear about you, we're in the same generation, but there was a time when people were flooding to college because they got a student deferment. I was a little bit younger. They had taken that away by the time I came along. You, on the other hand, had earned your college degree. Vietnam really wasn't on your radar, was it?
No, I had I'd signed a contract with South Haven Public Schools to teach and coach in May of 1968. And then I got a letter from an uncle of mine, Uncle Sam, you probably know him.
Oh, that uncle, yeah.
In early June, and he said that he'd like to check me over, see how healthy I was, and I figured it was just a routine checkup, of course. And they wanted to do that in July. And so I went in July for the checkup, and I said, well, what's up now? And the lady says, you don't know, you're going to be drafted. And it was a true draft. It was not the lotto draft at that particular time. It was still the true draft. And actually, they sent a representative, an assistant superintendent from the school, because they were 7 teachers short in July. And they said if they took me, they'd be 8 teachers short, and they could not replace me in the coaching positions that I was in. So they said they didn't care that I was married and just earned a degree, and I was contracted to teach and coach, and they drafted me. I raised my hand August 29th. 1968.
In your degree from Olivet, on the one hand, you're kind of thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're kind of thinking, I got this degree, maybe this will help place me someplace out of harm's way or whatever. I mean, I have this college degree. As it turns out, Jim Mccloughan, because of that degree, and especially your area of specialization in earning that degree, it kind of defined and dictated your path in Vietnam.
Yeah, it did, because as a draftee, you usually don't become a combat medic, which I did become, of course, went to Fort Sam Houston for that training. And I've thought really hard about that, and I think they looked at my transcripts and said, look, this guy studying to be a coach, he's taken kinesiology, physiology, anatomy, first aid, advanced first aid, strapping, and of course, all kinds of taping courses and so on and so forth. So I thought that's what I thought, that they thought I was maybe prepared to be a medic. And that's where they sent me, Fort Sam Houston, and I ended up in Vietnam as a platoon medic for a while, and then I became the head medic later on.
I wasn't there. My sense is the medic is maybe the most popular guy around. Everybody wants to be close with the medic because if I get in harm's way, he's the guy that's going to patch me up. Yes or no?
Well, they got to know me real well, and they knew that they could depend on me.
Yeah.
No matter what happened. And yeah, the medic was very, very revered for what he did. And I was no different than anyone else. Being an old coach, everybody has a part on the team, and my part was the medical part. But I also, I think you know this, this is the first time in the history that the medics carried weapons was in Vietnam. So I also was a grunt. As a matter of fact, I have a combat medic badge, but I'm also eligible for the infantry badge too, with the amount of combat that I had.
Yeah. But correct me if I'm wrong. Also, this is, by the way, James Mccloughan, Medal of Honor winner from the Vietnam conflict.
Recipient.
I'm sorry?
Recipient.
Recipient.
Yeah,
Thank you.
there was no contest.
Let, there's no winner involved. He's a recipient. Thank you for that clarification, sir. Yeah, okay, you guys got to carry weapons, but I know, and this applies to you, there are times you have to you just have to put the weapon down because you
Oh,
need these to take care of somebody else, to get
yeah.
to somebody else. And so it was, and we're going to pick up the story when we come back. I know you've told this story before. I've listened to it. It blows me away. It's why he is a recipient of the Medal of Honor, and it's a conflict at a place called Tam Key. He's going to take us there when we come back on Leading Edge. Welcome back to Leading Edge. I'm Jerry Anderson. He is James Mccloughan, Medal of Honor recipient from the Vietnam conflict. He was scheduled to be in Toledo in August of this year as our guest speaker at the D.O.V.E Fund dinner auction, big fundraiser for this organization that does so much, has raised really millions of dollars. And this is its 20th anniversary year, has raised some $4 million and put it all back into building things from schools to clinics to water systems and more over in Vietnam.
It's amazing.
James Mccloughan, there's a place called Tam Key. You guys were sent out there and you were up front, right? And there were some questions about, is this going to be a good mission? We don't have any intelligence, no forward ops intelligence out there to tell us what we're going to run into. But no, you guys are going forward. And if I got the numbers right, I've been taking 89 of you and possibly combined some 2,700 of them.
Yes, sir.
Don't like the odds.
No, but we didn't know that going in, of course,
Right.
Because of the fact that you just stated that our captain of our company was my age, and it was his second tour. He lied about his age at age 17, and he questioned the battalion commander about us being sent in there the evening before. And he said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, you haven't sent anybody in there to find out how many of the enemy is waiting for us. And he said, well, if you don't take them in, we'll court-martial you. And he knew they'd send us in with someone else anyway. So I'm very gracious that Captain Carrier went in with us. He passed away last year. Captain Carrier went in because I probably undoubtedly wouldn't be talking to you. We would have all been overran if it wasn't for his great leadership.
From a trench taking fire from hostile forces, you have a couple of young men that you spot up this way. You have to go get them. You give your weapon over to somebody else. You take off toward them. And that's the first time.
I jumped up out of a trench line onto a berm.
Yeah, and it was at that time something exploded behind you. Your first wounds in Vietnam, metal entered your body on the backside, and you just kept on with your mission. You just kept on running toward those people.
Correct. And they were in a bush, in some bushes. They were actually with a lead platoon that got ambushed, and how they got up there, and they didn't have their weapons. They left their weapons behind, and they were quite frightened. But I grabbed a hold of both of them and drug them across the berm and into the trench line that I had just jumped out of, and then inspected them. They were not injured. They were in shock, and they were moving.
Part of the point I bring that up, this was day one of this conflict that was going to take multiple days. On that evening, when you get back and patching people up and doing your medic stuff, and in one case, you talk about a sucking chest wound. Yeah, they had to get that guy to some help, get him out of there. You were told you could go. I mean, you had been wounded. You were a combat wounded. You had your ticket out. You didn't cash the ticket. Why not?
Because I knew they would need me. Just before jumping on that berm, I looked in the distance at Nguyen Hill, and coming off of there, it's probably about 3/4 of a mile away. So, you can't get it real good, but they look like ants coming off that hill. So I knew we were in trouble. Now I knew what the forward observers would have known. And there was no way that I was going to leave them without a medic. And
in subsequent fighting, you would take a bullet wound to an arm. The one that enters your shoulder,
No, that's
Doesn't hit blood vessels, but exits on the out the chest.
no. That's one of the guys I saved.
Okay.
I got hit in the arm with my
Okay.
AK-47.
Point being is over that amount of time, and this is not a time to be humble. It's a time to be honest. You saved how many lives?
Well, from being captured or dying, 10 Americans and one Vietnamese interpreter. I worked on anywhere from 40 to 50, but I actually went into the kill zone to bring those guys out. I was as close as 5 meters from the enemy at times.
There's also this story of you're a medic. I want to say Shay. Dan? Shay?
Dan Day, the second day, was killed, correct?
He also was a medic. He's doing what you're doing. You're
Yeah.
here to tell the story. He lost his life.
And he was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor in 1970.
Never had been done before or since. 2, count them, medics from the same incident win the Medal of Honor. Excuse me, our Medal of Honor recipients.
Correct. Posthumously.
And the award, as it reads, Jim Mccloughan, makes clear you're being recognized, not for what you would expect yourself to do it, but if you had said, now, if you couldn't have continued, you'd been wounded, nobody would have thought the less of you officially. This was over and above the call of duty.
Yeah. Intrepidity, I think, is the word that they use, that General Mattis described, that if somebody didn't do that, it wouldn't be held against them for not doing it.
We have this group in Toledo, and you've already met some of them, I know, and they've met you. They are incredible. What they do to raise funds and to travel back to Vietnam every year. Some have shared with me that it is originally for them was almost therapeutic. Some shared with me that their breathing and their nerves when the first time they landed on Vietnamese soil since back in those days, getting a lot of flashback stuff going on there. I just wondered if you could characterize what your message would be to your fellow Vietnamese veterans, especially these guys and gals at the D.O.V.E Fund who are they are making a huge difference in the lives of young Vietnamese kids who really don't have a lot in them. I mean, they're poor kids. Your message to that group?
Well, first of all, the children were a ray of light when we would come across them. They're in between, the battle. They're in between the Vietnamese interpretations of what needs to be done and the Americans. And for someone to go back and to make sure that they have the same opportunity that we fought for them, that's amazing. And what they are doing for these young people who really had nothing to do with that war.
Right.
They were born into a country that had been at war. And I'm told that many of them don't even have any concept of what that war was because it's been so long since they did that. Yeah.
Have you been back?
No, sir, I have not.
Do you have any interest in going back?
I haven't up to this point. And that, I lost some men and now the communists are the owners of that. But when I hear of such a thing that D.O.V.E does where the children are being involved and they're not a part of all that, I might even entertain doing that.
That would be a tremendous experience. It has been an honor for me to meet you and to thank you for your service to this country, your support of the D.O.V.E Fund, folks who are incredible people in our community, making a huge difference all the way on the other side of the world. And it's been my great good fortune just to get to know them and call bids at their auction and talk real fast and sell stuff and raise a lot of money. He is James Mccloughan, Medal of Honor recipient. Thank you for spending time with us, sir, and continued success to you. Stay well, please.
Well, thank you, and keep doing what you're doing.
Going to do it. Thank you.